This week, we have a bunch of stuff that I have sort of planned to talk about. Twitter is just ripe for the picking on a lot of news stories, and I don't even know where to start, honestly. I guess a lot of the stuff I've been seeing, especially from Biden's side of things, we saw a bunch of headlines. Here, let me bring one up regarding
who's that? Who's Biden? I'm kidding.
Biden.
I do.
He doesn't know, so why would we?
Right, he doesn't even know who he is. He's made a lot of comments, and I don't even know what the tactic is at this point. I guess it's to just smear people who may have been in support of him at some point.
Well, like I told you guys before we started, I don't know any news that happened today and very little that happened yesterday because I haven't been online very much. So This will be new for me, whatever it is.
Maybe start with the internet news since it's all internet related.
Biden says Americans have a choice between his plan and the Ultra MAGA plan. And this was also followed up by comments today talking about he called his predecessor the MAGA king. Said this like live, in a press conference, like it was to a room full of reporters. So I don't know, like I brought this up and I thought it was interesting because it seems like midterms are coming up. This is the plan from this side, is that we're going to start bringing MAGA into it, start blaming them and demonizing the right at this point. And
wait, they stopped?
Well, yeah, I don't know, but it's like they just, because I think that people are so, like, the topic of Trump and MAGA in general is so vitriolic that they need something.
No, it's funny. What's funny is that, like, they chose 2 years into the term to say, hey, so MAGA Trump, MAGA Trump, MAGA, MAGA Trump. Like, it's kind of weird that, after they've caused so much mayhem and chaos, and as far as like their whole handling of what they think the government how they think the government should be handled, after they've pretty much thrown everything into the dumpster and set the dumpster on fire, then put the fire out and set the ashes on fire. Like, now they're just saying, hey, so Trump did like first off, you guys are still on that TDS, for one. For two, me personally, I'm surprised that Biden himself, more commonly known as the refurbished animatronic covered in year-old mayonnaise, hasn't been ex-commed at this point. Like, they're like, everyone's making predictions. Like, 2 years in, we're gonna have Kamala Harris, whatever. She's gonna step in because they're gonna label old man animatronic as senile, and here we are. He's still in office and is still making everybody mad. And I'm just sitting here like, well,
inflation doesn't seem to stop. And that, where
that's the thing that bugs me too, is like it was like, the way that inflation happened, like, inflation is something that's kind of inevitable when it comes to like the economy, but the whole like shutting everything down and locking everyone down and stuff like that, all that did was just like further excel it by like thousands upon thousands of percent of how fast as it's supposed to move, and just made everything. They just pretty much thrown us into a recession. Stupid.
Yeah, I really wonder when Biden says you have the choice between his plan. It's like, what plan is that exactly? Because you seem to be destroying every American institution that you walk by.
My issue is he lies about us having a choice.
This is the stuff that troubles me. And I know this stuff happens with every president that comes in. It's just one side throwing mud at the other. But this just seems like a special case of stupid as far as politics go. At what point, like I'm hoping that this is one of those things that, like, MAGA and Trump is brought up so much that even people and progressives are just like, who cares anymore? But I don't know that that's going to be the case.
No, it's not the case.
No. It feels right now like they're throwing everything they possibly can against the wall to try to get something to stick for midterms. You have the abortion stuff, you have the war, you have COVID, and they're just trying to pile everything together as much as possible to distract everybody from the fact that their food costs more, their gas costs more, their ability to just be free in the world at large is almost entirely, well, not entirely, is slowly, well, not even slowly, it's quickly being eroded. I'll get there, I swear. And they're trying to just distract and hope that people will forget about the fact that they are a large part of why all these things are happening, so that they can get the votes.
At what point, like, I mean, and then recently you have, or we just have today, them talking about the $40 billion Ukraine package. Like, how quickly some people forget that 2 weeks ago people were crying about Elon Musk spending his money on purchasing Twitter and how he could save the world hunger, and he could have fixed so many other things. But now we're sending money to fund a foreign war.
Yeah,
And they're printing that money.
Right. It's not even money we have.
You're correct. They're printing money out that doesn't exist and funding things that shouldn't be funded by us, furthering us into like a deficit.
Keri, any thoughts so far?
I try not to watch political news.
I try myself.
So, yeah, I don't really have a lot of thoughts other than from a messaging standpoint, because I think so much of it is theater anyway. And like you said, it's the dumbest kind of commentary. Like, for him to go out and it's my plan or the MAGA plan. It makes me wish that I grew up during a time when presidents were much more articulate and thoughtful, and citizens in general, like we were all much more articulate, and people wanted to hear the substance. Yeah, but I try not to watch it because it's
Depressing.
It's depressing, and it's sort of pointless, and it's theater, and it feels like a world that doesn't really exist. It's like watch it. It's like going into the Matrix.
Yeah.
And so I do stay in touch with some, I do go on Twitter and try to keep up with what's happening in that world. But in terms of strong opinions, I guess I'm just, from a marketing standpoint, why is he using MAGA? I guess he's trying to throw red meat to his base.
Yeah.
And that's the strongest thing he thinks he has, is to insult Trump again and insult Trump people.
Right.
Yep.
But I don't think it's going to win over any independents or it's certainly not going to win back people like me and like you,
right.
Shaggy, who walked away. It's like, I scoff at that.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're doing the smarter thing anyway, like you were talking about before we started, getting involved locally where you can have the most impact, as opposed to fretting over what the morons on a national level are doing.